Now, on to cooking for children with the taste of health.
By the sea, and the children, as usual, are eating food that they enjoy, but that won't do them any good at all. Fatty, sugary, salty, and highly processed. Could it be that we have a whole generation growing up on junk food? In this programme, we're going to meet 3 cooks who are well aware of the problem, not only because they have children themselves, but also because gradually over the years, they've become specialists in healthy cooking. We're going to meet Caroline Waldegrave, who helps to run a cookery school in London, and Carol Hanslip, a writer. But first of all, we're going to meet Evelyn Findlater, who lectures on the subject in this part of North Devon. She's got 4 children herself, who now eat extremely healthy food. But she's particularly pleased because she's been able to pass many of her ideas across to school meal supervisors in this area, as well as to many school children themselves. Evelyn, presumably to get your important message across, it is important to find recipes that are easy and also cheap if you're feeding a lot of children.
Easy, cheap and tasty. And this particular recipe is quite simple to do, very tasty, a great success at little children's parties, and young teens absolutely adore it.
I know this pizza's very tasty because you use quite a few unusual things like sesame seeds and whatever.
Yeah.
You use that instead of salt to give a bit of extra flavour?
Well, it gives a lovely texture and it adds a beautiful flavour, calcium packed. And no need for salt, because the flavour in here is so delicious with the malt added, it's not necessary at all.
How many of these would you use?
1 tablespoon to 12 ounces of flour. It makes one huge pizza. Fill the tray over there. And just mix them together and lightly blend. Let the air into the flour with the seeds. And this helps to lighten the dough considerably. Just a little, about half a minute. Plenty. To this, we add 7 fluid ounces of water, warm water, not hot. You kill the yeast with heat. You can freeze it, you can put it in the fridge, you can leave it all day in a cool place to rise. You won't kill the yeast, but if you have it too hot, you do. And to that, I add a teaspoonful, nice generous one, of malt. Now, it has natural sugars in the malt, a beautiful flavour, and instead of using sugar, it helps activate the yeast. Stir it vigorously. That's plenty. Into that, I put a heaped teaspoon of dried yeast. Stir this again vigorously. Right. Now, cover this and put it in a warm, again, not hot place. And I usually put it on top of the cooker on a little wooden tray. Now, that takes about 5 to 7 minutes to activate. Here we are, bubbling beautifully. See?
It is.
Ah.
Very frothy, isn't it?
Yes. Now to that I add the oil so the liquids both go in together. Yeah, that's 1 dessert spoon in the 12 ounces again of oil. Now make a well in the middle, pour liquid in, and with one hand, carefully merge the flour into the liquid, like that. And it's a soft dough, not dry, not stiff, very soft. And I find with bread making, if it's too stiff, then you end up with a very tough loaf. There, now a little knead in the bowl, and here, now you see, it's still a little tacky. Now instead of putting loads of flour there, just a little bit on the hands, like that. Otherwise you're going to dry the dough out. Then I place it in a lightly oiled polythene bag.
Well, you've got one here, haven't you?
Great. That's it. Now, ease the air out like that. You'll find it'll all get aerated while it's rising. Here we have my great big saucepan, and I've got a tea towel in here. I place it in here and lid it. Now, it's not essential, but I feel I want to take care of it, and it rises very quickly, about 30 minutes.
So let's have a look and see if it's risen.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Good.
Quite a soft dough, very easy to roll out. And now I roll out in bran. And then a well-oiled tray, very important, because when you slice it, you want the slice to come out easily. So put it on there, spread it to the edge, and here you see you've got to push that in. Spread it all the way around till you've covered the extreme edge. There. Now I cover this with a lightly oiled polythene sheet for 15 minutes to half an hour. There we are. Now very gently take the cover off. Now because you have the oil on it, it hasn't stuck. There we are. Now while the sauce is still warm, here we have a delicious sauce.
What have you used to make
Well,
it? I see lots of vegetables in
yes,
there.
well, it's a basic tomato sauce, but I've added to it finely chopped celery, mushrooms, green pepper, and herbs. Now, onion, garlic, of course.
It smells lovely.
Yes, but when you're feeding very little children, a really good thing to do, often they sort of pick out the mushrooms and pick out green pepper, and they pick out the onion, and you think, oh, what is left? They love the flavour. They love the juicy part. So what I do for very little ones is put it in a processor, press for about 5 seconds, and you end up with a slightly smooth sauce. Put it in the centre, and there's nothing. They enjoy the flavour, and they eat the lot.
They can't tell what's in there.
No, but they just love the taste of it. Now, over the top here, I have about 6 to 8 ounces of cheddar cheese.
And you can buy low-fat cheddar now, which is helpful.
I think that's a good idea, especially for those on a diet. Now, here we have pumpkin seeds, and I put those on top. And when they actually toast in the oven, the flavour is delicious, and kids actually find they're looking at them and they're tasting them before they eat the pizza. So I think it makes a lovely, wholesome topping. And on the top of this, I just put a little basil. Oregano, marjoram is just as good, whatever herb you've got, and particularly if you've got fresh. Now that it's well topped, it's going to go in a hot oven and bake 400 gas mark 6 for about 25-30 minutes.
Yes, it makes it
And that will
attractive.
feed 6 very hungry young people.
Evelyn's devised a perfect alternative to chips when children want a savoury snack: corn fritters. The batter's simply whole wheat flour, skimmed milk, an egg, and lightly boiled frozen sweet corn. She uses just a little sunflower oil in a non-stick pan and fries them lightly on each side. I wish I'd known about them sooner. Evelyn, I've sliced your apples, but none too perfectly.
Oh, they look fine to me. We're going to make an apricot and apple crumble, so it won't matter. They'll all get crumbled up anyway. But if you've noticed, I've left the skins on because it adds a lot more fibre, and you've got lots of the best nutrients just under the skin, and it doesn't come out tough in the least.
Evelyn's left dried apricots to soak overnight in apple juice concentrate, a thick syrup with no added sugar. Nutmeg and cloves are used to flavour the fruit, but the crumble mixture starts off with whole wheat flour and ground cinnamon.
Now stir it well in. So you've got 6 ounces of flour, you've got 3 ounces of margarine, and crumble it up in the normal way. Now, into this, I add some toasted sesame seeds. I know it's one of my favourite ingredients. Again, calcium boosters, marvellous, and a lovely texture. I add just 1 tablespoon of raw cane sugar.
Did you find that your children switched easily from refined flour, crumble and white sugar to your whole food crumble?
No, I didn't have the courage to change immediately. I did it very slowly, gradually. But I made several mistakes with brown rice. They found that very difficult and they wouldn't touch it for 6 months. So I think it's very important to learn how to cook the foods before you put them on the table, present them to children, because one mistake means about 6 months before they'll even look at it again. It's in their mind and they won't have it. But I found using wholemeal flour in the cakes, that was easily acceptable. I cooked this for 40 minutes. And I find that is the least length of time. You can leave it for an hour, but 40 minutes you need gas mark 5, electric 375.
Can you just draw around the tins, Anna, and then...
In the gradual process of weaning our children away from unhealthy foods, imaginative alternatives are needed, especially at tea time. Carol Hanslip is a professional home economist who gets a lot of help from her daughter Susanna in developing tasty, healthy recipes which can satisfy children's cravings for sweet things. And luckily, Carol's ideas are appreciated by a wider audience. I asked her what she gives to her children as snacks when they come in from school.
They like dried fruits, apricots or dates particularly, but sultanas and figs, they like all these things, and they're very easy just as soon as they come in from school.
And they're good because although they're sweet and suitable for somebody with a sweet tooth, they're full of fibre and they're not the empty calories that sweet biscuits are. And when they're really hungry, you say they like bread and you make your own.
Yes,
That's marvellous.
yes, this is wholemeal bread with sesame seeds on the top. And I've made some spreads here that they like eating with it. This one is an apricot and orange spread made with dried apricots and orange juice, which is then pureed. This one is dessert apples and dates, which are cooked together with a little cinnamon. And they're both so moist that you don't need to add any butter or margarine on the bread at all, just as they are. This is another very good spread to use, which is a pear and apple spread that you can buy.
What sort of things do they like when they come in from school?
Well, one of their favourites is carob cake, which is very quick and easy, made with these carob powder.
Carob's a natural chocolate substitute, and the bean can be made into bars or chips or ground into powder.
In here I've got 2 ounces of dark brown sugar, or muscovado sugar, but it's a very small quantity. 4 fluid ounces of oil and 4 fluid ounces of water.
And the oil
I've
would be
used
polyunsaturated.
polyunsaturated safflower oil or sunflower oil.
Much better than using butter in a cake.
Yes.
It's not necessary to use animal fats in cakes
No,
at all,
not
is
at
it?
all. You can nearly always substitute oil, polyunsaturated oil. 2 eggs, and then 1 tablespoon, a rounded tablespoonful of malt extract. Now, the best way to measure this is to heat the spoon, first of all. Then, as you dip it in, it will slip out very easily. You can hear it sizzle.
Oh, yes. Why do you use malt extract?
Tip it off. Well, of course, it helps to sweeten it slightly. Then to this, I'm going to add 6 ounces of whole wheat flour and 1 ounce of carob powder, which has been sifted because it can be rather lumpy. And then just mix this all together till it's really smooth for about a minute, 45 seconds to a minute, so that you distribute the baking powder well. And then it is put into 2 greased and lined 7-inch sandwich tins. Divide it between the 2 tins. And then put this into the oven at regular 4 on the middle shelf for 20 minutes. Now I've just sandwiched the 2 sponges together with half the topping and then spread the rest of the topping to the edges as neatly as possible. The topping is made with a low-fat curd cheese, or you can use fromage frais, with a melted carob bar.
And you've made a lot of other lovely-looking things here. They're especially for the children when they come home from school.
Yes, there's hazelnut fingers, which are made with hazelnuts and oats and malt extract and polyunsaturated oil.
And this looks like popcorn to me.
Yes, those are popcorn clusters. They're just made... First of all, you have to pop the corn, of course, and then put a rounded tablespoonful of malt extract in a saucepan and boil it for 30 seconds, stir in the popcorn, and then shape them into clusters.
Which of these is your favourite?
I think the carob cake's my favourite because it's so quick and easy to make and it's very nice.
Have you ever made it yourself?
Yes, I make it quite a lot when I come home from school sometimes.
What did you feel when your mother first started to cook different things and healthier things for you? Did you like them straight away?
No, I think I took about 1 week to get used to them.
Only 1 week?
Yeah.
That's good. And what sort of things did you find difficult at the beginning?
I didn't like brown rice.
You weren't that keen on brown bread to begin with, were
No,
you?
I wasn't.
No.
But now I like most things.
Caroline Waldegrave helps run the Prewleith Cookery School in London. And since having her 3 children, she's become particularly interested in using healthy recipes. Caroline, was it difficult to convince Katie and Liza that they did like healthy food?
Well, they weren't really given any choice. So to begin with, it's terribly easy. When they're up until they're about 1, they don't see any other food, and it's very easy. It's much harder with Katie now because she goes to lunch with her school friends, and they like hamburgers and chips and things like that. But when she's out, she eats less healthily.
But of course you can make healthy hamburgers.
Absolutely, you can make healthy hamburgers, but if they're in somebody else's house, and you can't impose your views on other people too much. So when she's out, she might eat unhealthy food. But I think it's all part of habit forming. I mean, if she thinks what a proper pudding is plain yoghurt with perhaps some fruit, then she'll just assume that that's what pudding is, and eventually, I mean, you know, it just sort of slowly becomes a way of life. I do think it is, the home influence is incredibly important, because things like, my mother didn't eat sweets. I never ate sweets. I mean, I just didn't think in terms of eating sweets. She didn't eat pudding, so I didn't think in terms of eating pudding.
It is important to start early, because otherwise the children get used to having very, very sweet food and very, very salty food with all the snacks and crisps.
That's right, yes. It's a long-term project, really. I mean, one's thinking 20 years ahead. But
That's what I say to mine.
Do you?
When they say, I'd like some chips, and I say, well, you'll be pleased you didn't eat them when you were 50.
I know, it's no good, is it? It's terribly difficult, that.
Caroline, do you feel strongly about baby foods?
Yes, it is extraordinary how much more responsible, I suppose, the manufacturers have got. I mean, when I was looking after Katie when she was a baby, I found it quite difficult to find sugar-free products and things. And feeding her was much, much easier. And sugar-free juices and sugar-free cereals are much more readily available, yeah.
And of course you can just make up your own, can't you, with
Yes,
vegetables?
yeah, of course you can, but so often one's in a terrible rush. And the fact that you can have healthy convenience foods is very, very useful indeed.
Katie, what is your favourite meal?
Fish cake.
Your mummy's fish cakes. I'm not surprised, they're very good. So how do you make this recipe? Is it quite simple?
It's very easy indeed. It's about equal proportions of fish and potatoes. Here I've got some potatoes cut up, so we'll put those on to cook.
I'll put those on there.
Thank you very much. And in here I've got some fish with some skimmed milk and some sliced onion, to which I'm going to add a couple of bay leaves, a bruised parsley stalk. If you bruise it, it brings out more flavour, and some black peppercorns.
Can you use any kind of white fish?
Any white fish will do, yes. I mean, this is cod, in fact.
Really anything that's cheap on the market?
Exactly, yeah. So I'll put those on to cook, and that will only take about 8 minutes.
Caroline's put the boiled potatoes through a sieve to achieve a drier, finer texture.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix these potatoes with the fish, which I've flaked and got rid of any bones. I've done them in quite big pieces because it's quite nice to actually come across a piece of fish rather than a puree. So I'll just mix the fish and the potato together. And I'm going to use some egg to bind this. I'm going to add 1 beaten egg to the mixture. I'm saving a little bit of the egg to brush the fish cakes just before they get grilled. It's quite a soft mixture, and it's quite difficult to shape these into fish cakes. So what I tend to do is put them into the fridge for a little while before trying to shape them. The slight problem is that, as you can see, it is a fairly sloppy mixture, and even once it's been in the fridge, it's still faintly sloppy. So what you want to do is only put them on the grill pan once you're ready to serve them, because you do, especially if you've got a grill pan like me that's got sort of a wide mesh, the mixture will slightly fall through. So only put them on the grill pan when you're ready to cook them. They take a couple of minutes each side, depends on how hot your grill is, until they're nicely browned.
Of course, Caroline's fish cakes haven't dropped through the grill, and she serves them to her children with some natural yoghurt or a plain tomato sauce. Caroline, you're now going to make orange jelly with fresh fruit. It sounds very different to the sort of jelly that most children like to eat.
It's just as delicious. In fact, it's more delicious, and all it is orange juice and gelatine. I would have thought it was easier to make than using those packets. All you do is you put some of the orange juice into a small saucepan and sprinkle on a couple of packets of gelatine. The main thing is to keep the saucepan level and to sprinkle the gelatine over very evenly and gently. It's quite a lot of gelatine in this recipe for the amount of liquid, but that's because I'm going to layer it up with fresh fruit, and so you want quite a sort of solid frame. So it's 2 packets of gelatine to about 1.5 pints of orange juice. If we just leave that for a few minutes, and while that's sponging, I'll be preparing some fruit.
And once it's sponged, I can then dissolve it over the heat for you.
That's right, yes, thank you very much. When you dissolve it, make sure that it doesn't boil. It wants to just dissolve very gently, not get too hot, because if it boils, it loses some of its gelatinous power.
And what sort of fruit are you going to put into it?
Well, I thought I'd do some black grapes, which I've halved and pipped, and a banana, or a couple of bananas perhaps, but I'm not going to prepare those now because they'll go brown. And I thought I'd just do a couple of segments of orange.
Well, I'll go and dissolve this now while you finish that off.
Thank you. You then just cut down between the segments and you get a nice shaped orange.
Caroline, it seems to have dissolved beautifully.
Thank you very much. Now what I'm going to do is add it to the orange juice, and I'm going to pour it from a height so that it actually has a little time to cool down before it gets there. The idea is to have these two things of a similar temperature. If it's too hot, it might set in lumps, so you pour it from a height so it cools down as it pours, and you stir with a large metal spoon. And then what I do is I'm going to put a little bit of the orange jelly into a wet ring mould. It's wet because that helps it turn it out afterwards. And I'm just going to ladle in a little layer of orange jelly. I'm not going to put very much in, and then I'm going to put it in the fridge to set. And when this is set, I'm going to arrange a layer of grapes.
The jelly is layered little by little, allowing the fruit to set in the fridge before adding a new layer. This way the fruit doesn't sink to the bottom.
And then once it's turned out, any fruit that you've got left over, you can just shove in the middle and it will look very pretty.
So here they all are. Not only the carob cake, we've also got the pizza, the fish cakes, the fresh fruit jelly, and the corn fritters. Now, I'm completely convinced that these are all lovely, healthy things to eat, and I hope by now you are too. But we ought to put them to the real consumer test. Yes, you've guessed. This peaceful scene is soon going to be transformed.
there's a recently published BBC book, The Taste of Health, which is now available from booksellers. Tomorrow's World, with Judith Hann, of course, on BBC One now, except in Scotland, includes a look